Hello everyone, Andrew here, and in today's pickup video, I am going to be showing you some things that I picked up recently at a video game swap meet. Now, video game swap meets are really awesome, because you get a whole bunch of people, you get a whole bunch of video game collectors, a whole bunch of retailers, and a whole bunch of other just video game fanatics, and you put them into one room, and everyone trades and sells their stuff to each other, and usually you walk out of there with some really cool things that you do not see on a normal occasion. I take some of my stuff, I trade it, I sell it, and then I use those trades to obviously get new games, and I use whatever I sell to also get new games. Just doubles that I've accumulated over time, maybe by buying lots or something like that, and then getting rid of the things that I no longer need. So that is what swap meets are really awesome for, and so I just went to one of those and I brought back some really cool stuff. I've actually done a pickup video after going to a swap meet before. Just like in that video, I've this time come home with some really cool things, and actually quite a few import things too. Even though some people might not really see the point, I know I've met at least a few people who are like, oh, who needs the Japanese stuff? I find it really fascinating actually, and I just think that having those games from different regions is really cool, and sometimes because it's from Japan, you might think, oh, it's an import game, so it costs way more than the North American one. That's not always true, because first of all, a lot of people can't play the Japanese games, so your target market is a lot smaller, so raising the price isn't going to help you sell it. And also, even if people have a way to play Japanese games, they might not necessarily want the Japanese games because the English one is what they would probably prefer. So Japanese games usually aren't too expensive. In most cases. I mean, if you go on eBay, of course it's going to be expensive, but if you just find them locally and you can actually buy them right off people, Japanese games aren't overly priced. So I'm going to be showing off a whole bunch of stuff that I got at this swap meet, and we're going to start with something that I always love to show, and that is some NES games, something that I don't pick up too regularly these days, and as you can see, I have 6 in my hand, although one of them is not going to count towards my main total of North American games, and you will see why shortly, but that leaves 5 to add to my previous total of 710, so I'm now up to 715 North American NES games, including licensed and the non-licensed ones. And I actually have 4 non-licensed ones, 4 unlicensed carts here, and only 1 official one. I know some people only go for a licensed collection, although I think that some of the unlicensed games are really hilarious, and I really enjoy collecting them just as much as I enjoy collecting the official ones, even though I know that there are some unlicensed ones like Cheetah Man 2 and some of the other games that the chances of ever seeing them, not even just getting them, but ever actually seeing them are so low. But still, I'm going to see how close I can get, but without further ado, let's move on to the games that I did get, and the first one is Batman, Return of the Joker. Man, that is really blurry, but I'm telling the truth when it says Batman, Return of the Joker. For the NES, of course. This is a game I have actually seen quite a few times before, and for some reason I was always reluctant to pick it up. For whatever reason, although this time I did, but I think the other times, the ones that I saw were not in very good shape. But this one is pretty much mint. The label's not really peeling. So yeah, I picked up that. That is NES game number 1, and the only official one, as I said. NES game number 2 is Death Race, and this cartridge is very bizarre. Just like a solid gray thing, and the label is really off to one side. And this thing really sucks right here. I hate the way that when you try to get out of the NES, because unlike an NES cartridge where the whole kind of dip here is flat, this one it's elevated and then it dips in the middle and comes back up again. But this makes it very hard to kind of get your finger in there to kind of pull it out of the NES, because as you can see, it's pretty much as high as the rest of the cartridge. So it's like putting a normal NES cartridge into your NES and then trying to get it out by pulling from here and not from here. So overall, this is the stupidest cartridge design on the NES, but it's a game I had to get for my list anyway. I'm not going to let the cartridge design stop me from that. Color Dreams games are pretty much just as bad, although Robo Demons. So yes, this is one of those crazy blue cartridges, just like you would see. A game like only one Bible Adventures On. Next game is Trolls on Treasure Island. This one is also actually in very nice shape. Usually games like this, the labels are very bad quality, so they usually get torn off pretty easily. Kind of like this game right here, Deathbots! Isn't that the greatest label you have ever seen? The back is great, although I have no idea what the heck someone did to the front. Because it should have a label like this. I have many other games like this one that have very bad labels, so I'm not really surprised to finally see one that is missing. It is important to note, though, that I did not pay $10 for this one. I actually had it thrown in for free when I bought Robo Demons, although it still is a game that I did not have. Although, of course, I will definitely be on the lookout for a better copy than that. But for now, we will say I have it, because it is true, I do accept it, even though it's not in the greatest shape. And was that all 5 games? Yes, that was. I went through those rather quickly. So yes, those are 5 new NES games to take me up to 715 total for unlicensed and licensed. And there are about 775. Including unlicensed and licensed games. So, not too far off from that now, although, of course, I'm surprised I actually found so many at that swap meet. It is getting very difficult to find them now. And the last NES game that I said did not count in the other total, and that is because it is from Hong Kong. It is the Hong Kong version. Definitely need to focus in on this one. I wish my camera had autofocus, but oh well. It is Super Mario Brothers Hong Kong version, which is very neat. I've never seen a cartridge like this before. I mean, it looks just like your typical NES cartridge, although it is actually a different shade of gray. Might be able to notice if I place these two right beside each other. And yeah, so I thought that was really cool to pick it up. And it came with the sleeve, but like I said, I'm always really interested in kind of foreign things like that. Some people might think it's just kind of stupid, but I don't know. I really like kind of seeing just what other video games are out there and like how they're different. And I just find that overall really interesting. Although, like I said, some people might just be like, if you like, well, actually, I was gonna say if you can't play it, this will work, of course, in your NES if it is not region locked. So if you have cut your pins, like the lockout chip on your front loader NES, or if you have the NES 2, or I think like any unofficial NES, you will be able to play foreign games like that, so that is pretty cool. And that is it for the NES games. Next up, we have a few things that I got from Games Exchange. So, at swap meets, you'll usually get collectors which come to sell some of those, and you'll also get some stores that show up too, which is always cool. And one of the stores there was Games Exchange, and they were selling USB Super Nintendo controllers, which is really cool. So I got this one from them, and it's actually something I've always really wanted. I have always really wanted a Super Nintendo controller. For use on the computer, especially because, I mean, there's like so many great games out there I could use it for. Asakura P, I played that quite a while ago. It is a Japanese indie game. It would work awesome with this Super Nintendo USB controller. And then there's games like Braid, of course, platforming games like that are also good. Maybe even like some Super Mario Brothers X fan games with the Super Nintendo controller would fit it perfectly. So I got that from them, and they are some really cool guys. They have a store. I mean, it's definitely worth checking out if you are in their area. So, yeah, USB Super Nintendo controller. It's always been on my list of things to get, and now I'm very happy to finally gotten one. Another thing that I got from Games Exchange, I haven't taken the price stickers off of things yet. It's always a daunting task taking all the price stickers off of everything. It's okay when you get like 1 or 2 games, but when you get a whole bunch, taking the stickers off can take a while. So I haven't gotten around to taking all of them off yet. But Shenmue is a game that I have wanted for quite a while. I have the second one. Actually, the story of getting the second one is kind of funny. I was on Kijiji, which is like Craigslist. It's a local listing thing. And someone had Shenmue listed, Shenmue 2 actually listed for $5, and apparently in the listing it said there was no instruction manual, no bonus DVD, because Shenmue 2 is supposed to come with like a bonus feature-length movie DVD. And I was like, yeah, I kind of just want to get the game, $5, it's not too bad. So I went to the person's house to pick it up, I opened the case, and it has the book, the DVD, and everything is in mint condition, and I got it all for $5. So it was funny how that worked out. But anyway, so I have no idea what the heck was wrong with their ad. But anyway, it's a series I've always really wanted to try out. It's disappointing. I was actually doing some reading up on it, like before I found this, a few months ago, and they never did actually finish the series. It seems like a lot of series that I play never make it past 2, so if that's any kind of sign, I would probably really like this, because let's see, there's Star Tropics, which never made it past Star Tropics 2. There is the Kyle Hyde series, which is what I call it. And Kyle Hyde is the main character in Hotel Dusk. And he was also the main character in a game called Last Window, which never, for some reason, came out in North America, even though it came out Europe, and even though it came out in the Europe and PAL territories, which means that it was in English in that version. Or at least you could select English. So I have no idea why that never came to North America, but that ended after the second game, and then of course Mega Man Legends 2, we all know what happened there, and I'm sure there's other things. Oh, Evolution for Dreamcast was a kind of bizarre RPG series that I liked, but of course that ended at number 2, so I'm sure the list could go on, but I'm not going to list all of them as we'd be here all day. But even though, unfortunately, the series was never completed, I'm definitely very interested in trying it. I did pay $20 for this, but you just have to look. I mean, the condition is awesome. Everything is there. You have books, CD. I mean, you have like the advertisements, even a business card for Games Exchange was thrown in there, which is pretty funny. So yeah, you have all the discs there. 2 discs on that side, and of course you open up the back. You have another book. You have disc 3, and then you have the Shenmue Passport, which I looked inside this book that says Shenmue Passport, and apparently when you go on that, you can watch like all of the cutscenes and stuff that you've unlocked. So all of that apparently isn't even stored on like the main game, as I guess like different cutscenes would be on different discs. So if you want to watch all the cutscenes that you've unlocked, you put that Passport disc in, and then you can watch all of the cutscenes. I think that's really cool. So overall, I mean, the 4-disc set, it's all in very nice condition with all of the books. And like I said, I had been looking for it, because it's definitely a series I wanted to try out, even though as sad as it is that it never did get completed. I'm definitely looking forward to giving that a shot, and like I said, seems like I like all of the series that end abruptly after 2 games, so if that's any kind of sign, I'm going to love that. So I'm definitely looking forward to checking that out. Next up, things that we should look at some PS2 games. Why not? I actually picked up quite a few PS2 games that other places I have seen them as quite expensive, although at the swap meet. Swap meets are always an awesome place to get great deals, so I figured it would be a great time to pick these games up, especially since they're games I've always wanted anyway. The first of which is Disgaea for the PS2. Crazy strategy RPG. Everything is there. It's very nice and complete. So yeah, I mean, of course, games like this, I've seen them getting really up in price. And I paid $10 each for Disgaea 1 and Disgaea 2, so, and they're both in very nice condition and complete, so I was very happy to do that. As I said, they're games I've been wanting to play, and just seems like the natural event for RPGs and strategy RPGs to rise in price ridiculously after a few years, so I was definitely happy to get my hands on those. Next up, we have Terminator and Terminator 3. I did not get this one from EV Games or GameStop despite the sticker. I think I picked these up out of like a $2 or $3 bin. But they are both complete and in good shape. Well, except for the front, of course, GameStop made sure that they did their job and destroyed the cover with their stickers. But other than that, the games are in nice shape. Here, we have one of my favorite games, Madden 2005, although I had to grab it because it was the collector's edition. This was another one I just picked out of a bin of cheap games. I'm not exactly sure what makes it the collector's edition, but as a shiny CD, and everything was there, and it came with the sleeve. So I thought that was kind of neat, so I grabbed that. And then the next game is another one that I see going for ridiculous prices sometimes, and there's always a person at Anime North, which is a convention that I go to every May, who's always preaching about this like it's going to be like the most expensive PS2 game ever, and he's saying it's like worth 60 bucks and it's impossible to find. Well, I did not pay 60 bucks for this. I actually paid a quarter of that. And that is Mega Man X Collection for the PS2. I have it for GameCube, although PS2 seems like the most natural console to play it on, considering that the PS2 controller has the closest setup to the Super Nintendo controller, which is what the first 3 games were on. And then, of course, the PlayStation 2 controller is perfect for 4, 5, and 6, which were on the PS1. It was always kind of weird playing the collection on the GameCube, is the way that the controller was. And I didn't have a PS2 when I got this, so I had to get it for GameCube. But now, I have it for PS2. And now I have both Mega Man collections for PS2s. I also have the original Mega Man collection, which is pretty cool. And the last PS2 game of the day, I believe, unless I'm forgetting something, is Quake 3 Revolution. And I don't know, Quake is a very fun game, and it is complete. It even has the French book. That is why this book looks so crazily massive. I think I've gone over French books in another video, so I'm not going to go over that all over again, and just how crazy they are, but yeah, very complete. So Quake 3 for the PS2. Okay, what do I want to cover next? I think I will go over my Ego adventure, and that is not my EGO adventure, that is my IGO adventure. Now, I'm not getting like super ridiculously self-cocky or anything like that. Like, oh, I am better than everyone, and they, super inflated ego. I am talking about the Japanese. Well, it's not necessarily Japanese. I don't think they really know where it originated. I think it originated in China. It's an East Asian thing, anyway. It is an East Asian board game where you have the board, and you have white and black stones, and each there's 2 players, and each person takes a color of stone, and you kind of have to try and take the most territory on this board, and whoever has the most territory at the end wins. And it's a pretty interesting game that I have played a little bit, and I have always kind of just wanted a version of it to play on a console, because of course you can play it on the computer and stuff like that, but as I love my gaming on my video game consoles, I've always been kind of searching for a version to play on, because I'm not very good. I know at least how to play the game though, so the fact that the game is Japanese isn't really too significant. So I've always kind of wanted to find a version of Go for a console, like I said. So I went to one of the booths today, and I found Go for the original Famicom, and I bought it. And I was like, yeah, that's really cool. I'm definitely going to go home and try that out. And then, after I bought that, I kept looking around, and what did I find? But Super Go, also for the Famicom. So I mean, I bought Go, but I was like, man, Super Go, that has to be better than normal Go. So I'm like, you know what? I'll grab that too. And then after that, I continued doing a little bit more looking around. And remember, I've never seen any of these games. I've always been, for a long time now, I've actually been looking of a version for Go, for a console, but I've never seen one before. So yeah, I bought those 2. I kept looking around, and then I said, hey, look at that! It's Go for the original PlayStation! That has to be better than Go on the Famicom. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to buy this. So now, I'm up to 3 versions of Go. And then, I did a little bit more looking around, and I found Go number 2 for the Japanese PlayStation. I said, that has to be better than Go number 1 for the Japanese PlayStation. So I said, you know what? I will pick up Go number 2 for the Japanese PlayStation. And now I am up to 4 versions of Go after having 0 versions of Go. So I did a little bit more looking around. Don't worry, I promise this is going to end soon. And then I came across the 5th and final version of Go that I bought, and that is Hikaru no Go, the game based on one of my #1 favorite animes of all time for the Japanese PlayStation. And I'm like, you know, since it's Hikaru no Go based on one of my favorite animes, even though I already have 4 perfectly good versions of Go for consoles, I have to pick this one up. And it is very cool because it is super complete, has everything in there. Japanese games, it's interesting because usually when they're sealed, they kind of have this end thing on the end. And people are usually very smart, and they kind of save those inside of the case. So I had all of that, had the manual, and even inside of the case, there are actually some trading cards based on the anime. I actually, they're Japanese, I don't know too much about them. But there were 3 holographic cards in there, and everything was in perfect shape, so I picked that up. And that was my 5th and final version of Go that I picked up for the day. Now, I'm sure people are thinking, why the heck did you waste so much money on these games? I mean, it's kind of silly. Although, actually, this takes me back to what I talked about way back at the beginning of the video, I mean, so long ago now, where I talked about how just because a game is an import does not mean that, like eBay would make you think, it has to be super expensive. And that also brings me back to the fact that, a lot of people probably don't have the ability to play import games like I do. Like, I can play Famicom games thanks to a converter, and the Japanese PlayStation games thanks to a modded PlayStation that I have. But there is also a very low demand for Go games on video game consoles. So, for the 2 Famicom ones and the original 2 PlayStation ones, I paid $3 to $4 a piece for these. So, I mean, it's not like they were like $10, $20 a piece. So overall, that was no more than $12 right there in my hand. It was probably less than 10. So, I mean, actually, when I say less than 10, that actually makes absolutely no sense, because even if they were 3, they would be 12 each. So yeah, they were somewhere between 12 and 15. What am I even saying? But still, I mean, even though, I mean, I kept getting a better and better version, of course, I have no problem with getting them just for the sake of adding them to my collection. And then at the end, when I found Hikaru no Go, it was originally supposed to be $15, although I ended up getting it for 10, and I was very happy with that. So overall, for about $20, I got 5 different versions of Go, and I will be interested in seeing just what the heck the difference is between each of them. But yeah, so that is my crazy story of how I've never seen Go on a console before, and then yet it just found 5 in one day, and it was kind of ridiculous. Because that's why I kept saying, I'll buy this one, because I mean, this is like my one chance. I'm never going to see another one. And then I'd go to the next place and I'd be like, well, there's a better version. I mean, I might as well pick it up. And then that just kept happening. So that was actually really funny, I thought. And anyway, so since we talked about Go, we might as well continue on with imports, because as I said, I actually picked up quite a few imports today. And the next one that we're going to look at is Final Fantasy VII. Again, don't think that just because it's Final Fantasy VII, it's expensive, and don't think that because it's the Japanese version means it's even more expensive than the North American version. I actually picked up this, and I believe it was this Go, for less than $20. So that just goes to show you how Japanese imports are nowhere near the value of their North American counterparts. In some cases they can be, like Mega Man is definitely a series where the Japanese games are usually kind of up there with their North American counterparts, but especially RPGs, and then like games like Go that no one cares about. You will not ever pay as much for the Japanese version as you will for the North American version. And I wanted that Final Fantasy VII because I have 8 and 9 in Japanese, so I kind of just wanted to complete the set and get number 7. And the final Japanese PlayStation game that I bought is Atelier Ellie. And this is because I have played the Atelier Iris and all the PlayStation 3 ones. Atelier Iris 1, 2, and 3 for the PS2. Because Atelier Iris was the very first Atelier game that ever came to North America. And I've always kind of wanted to try the ones that came before, just to see where the series came from before it came to North America. And this, for the original PlayStation, is one of those games. And it is in super nice shape. Everything is in there. I guess that's kind of like a bonus music CD there. It looks kind of like a GameCube game, although if we look underneath the instruction manual, we will see the actual game disc there. So I'm very interested in trying that out, so I had to make sure that I picked that up as well. Let's just make sure I'm not crushing kind of that side insert thing. So yes, Atelier Ellie for the PS1 is another thing that I picked up. Let's go through these a little bit quicker, because my Go story was kind of like the main meat of everything, although I thought that was really funny, so I had to share that with everyone. Next thing up, Gekten Saiban, or Ace Attorney 2, for the Game Boy Advance. Of course, we only got the Ace Attorney games on the DS, although before they went to the DS, they were Game Boy Advance games, only released in Japan. And yes, this is what a typical Japanese Game Boy Advance cartridge box looks like. I like the way it's kind of rectangular instead of being pointlessly square with all of the wasted space like the North American version. I'm not even going to get on the rant about North American things having to be bigger and wasting space and materials, but yeah, I thought that was really cool. I have the third one in the box. Now I have the second Game Boy Advance one in the box. Now I just have to find the first one in the box, which I thought was pretty cool. Next up, Japanese Nintendo 64 games. We have Mario Party 2. And Mario Kart 64, which I will add to my collection. I'm kind of trying to get all the Japanese Mario Nintendo 64 games for whatever reason. I mean, I already have like Mario 64, what am I trying to say? Mario Party 1, and a whole bunch of other ones too. So, Paper Mario, or Mario Story as it is called in Japan, is another one that I have. And, actually, that is a lie. I was going to say, and to end off my import kind of speech, but we are not done yet. Next Japanese game, Original Tennis, which you probably cannot even see because it is so blurry. Original Tennis for the Famicom, as well as Family Basic for the Famicom. Now this is very cool, and unfortunately I cannot use this. What this is this cartridge goes with the Famicom keyboard that you could get for the Japanese Famicom. And that's what Family Basic is. It's not like Basic Family Rules. No, it is BASIC, the programming language for the family computer, so Family Basic. A lot of people probably would not realize that immediately by looking at it, and probably would think something to do with Family Basics. Always eat your vegetables, no. So yeah, this is the cartridge that you would need to use to go along with the keyboard, and then you can do some crazy programming. Unfortunately, I do not have the keyboard, but if I ever do find it, I am now prepared, because it seems like whenever you have an accessory that requires a cartridge, you never find both of them at the same time. So I have one piece of the puzzle, and now I just have to find the second one. Second last import thing, and I got this out of like a $1 or $2 bin, and I bought it, and you will see why I kind of thought it was interesting. Derby Stallion 96, a Super Famicom game. The only reason I bought this is because I was intrigued by the fact that it looks like you can insert a Game Boy game into the top. It almost looks like a Super Game Boy. So I thought that was kind of cool, and just for the sake of finding out what the heck is up with that, I grabbed it because I thought that was neat. And gotta take a breath. The final import game of the day, but that does not mean that it is actually Japanese, because just because it is imported, all my import stuff isn't from Japan. Surprisingly, we have in a very mushed box, but that's okay because I paid $5 for this, so I'm not going to complain that the box is a little bit much, considering that it included the game in very nice shape. Is Game Boy Gallery 5 games in 1. Now, what this is this, to my knowledge, is the European or PAL version of Game & Watch Gallery that we got in North America. Although the interesting thing is I don't think any of the games on this have like the modern versions that include the Super Mario characters. So I'm not entirely sure how that is actually going to work. I have yet to try this out, although I'm actually very looking forward to it. So as you can see, the box has seen much better days. But as I said, I would have paid $5 for the game alone, so I was not complaining about that. So yeah, I'm looking forward to giving that a shot, because again, especially when like a game is released as like very differently in a different version, kind of like this one, or Game & Watch Gallery, excuse me, suddenly becomes a Game Boy Gallery, 5 games in 1, and they changed up a whole bunch of things. I definitely like getting region variants like that. Starting to choke, talking too much. Okay, let's not spend too much longer on things then. We are almost there. I will not spend too long on these. People might know that I really like my retro video game books, like, you know, like the old things, like tips on how to win and stuff like that. And I picked up some of those not too long ago. Actually, not too long ago. It might have been a few months now. Although I found some at the show, Swap Meets, and I definitely had to pick them up. And we have How to Win at Nintendo Games #4. These things keep surprising me. I remember I originally thought there were only 2 of these, and then I found the 3rd one, and I was like, whoa, I can't believe that there was 3. And I was sure that was it. And then now all of a sudden I come across #4, so I thought that was really funny. And in case you are sick of learning how to win at Nintendo games, you can learn how to win at Super Nintendo games. I've always found these books really amusing just because of like the way that sometimes they'll try to describe things. Like, just imagine reading how to beat levels in Mega Man 3. I mean, you'd much prefer having like an issue of Nintendo Power where you have the map and you have like visual kind of images to represent what you should be doing in the level, not just kind of reading Mega Man will jump in exactly 3 seconds after shooting and then jump again and then switch to the Shadow Blade. It's just like it's really ridiculous reading your way to victory. Real gamers use pictures. No. So yeah, I always find those books to be a good laugh. Let's see. A few more things left to go here. I'm not going to spend too long on these. Next up, we have toys for the Sega Genesis. Now, I mean, it sounds like, you know, oh, it's a cute kids game, toys. And then you look on the back, and it's like, it's war. And I really don't know where all of this comes from. I mean, it's like toys like mixed with like nuclear waste, and now they're taking over the world. I have absolutely no idea, and that did not sound good. But I mean, it's just like I have no idea. I mean, you have like army generals and tanks and missiles flying places. I have no idea what is up with this game. But I thought it was kind of intriguing, so I had to grab that. And the last game for the Genesis for today is Subterranea. It's an interesting little shooter that I'm looking forward to giving a try. And just like toys, this one is also complete. Next up, let's see, what should I finish with? GameCube or Miscellaneous? Miscellaneous, I'll do right now. Why not? Next up, And this is really funny. Just like I like some of the import stuff, I love really bizarre things. Even if it's just like to strike up a conversation. I find things like this so funny and so cool. Still sealed, a little bit crushed, but sealed, never opened. Sonic's Schoolhouse. Learn your, it's like a battle. I mean, I love things like this. And then there's like Mario teaches typing, Mario's fundamentals. It's like whose school are you gonna go to? You gonna go to Sonic school or are you gonna go to Mario's school? Just putting video game characters and teaching games like this, and then it comes like, especially I found it in this big box that had never been opened. I had to grab this just because I find things like this so funny. I never even knew that Sonic had a game like this. So I had to grab it. This is for ancient computers, so I mean, even if I were to open it, which I had no plans on doing anyway, it wouldn't work on my computer. I'm sure the whole thing's on YouTube, and I'm sure it wouldn't be very fun anyway. But yeah, Sonic Schoolhouse, that is one of the funniest things I have seen in a while. Next up, we have an issue of Nintendo Power, and you can probably guess why I grabbed this one, because Banjo-Kazooie seems to be the game of recent. It's funny, came in this kind of, comic book holder, so it stays in pristine, mint condition. No, of course, it had been read a billion times by whoever the previous owner was. And I'm definitely not going to be keeping it in this. I'm going to be putting it on the shelf with the rest of them. I just thought it was kind of neat that it came in this. I've actually already taken it out, but it sealed up easily, so I put it back just because I thought it was kind of funny. But Banjo-Kazooie, I also had to pick it up because it is volume 109, and it was really funny because I had like all of the volumes like surrounding it. I think I had like 106, 107, 108, and then 110, 111, 112, but for some reason I was missing 109, and since it was Banjo-Kazooie, one of my favorite games, in case you didn't know, I definitely had to grab that. Next up, we have two more books. Super NES, Player's Guide. I really like the books like this. There's other ones like NES Super just cheat codes and just like guide to NES games, guide to Mario games. Those are cool. And I also picked up the official, I don't usually go too much for like the knockoff books. So like it was just some like random Joe's Sega tips, but it's the official, which makes it really cool. Sega Genesis Power Tips book. So it's pretty much exactly like the Super NES one, where the Super NES one, it just goes through a whole bunch of different Super Nintendo games like Mega Man's, Final Fantasy, Mario's, and it just gives you like general tips on all of them. This book is exactly the same. It goes through like the Sonics and Tasmania and Phantasy Star and a whole bunch of crazy things. Golden Axe, Fantasia, that's what that one was. And just gives you tips, so that's really neat. And I love books like that, especially when they're official. I mean, if I went for all the unofficial ones, I'd be buying books all day, but especially when you come across ones that are like officially made by the company whose games are in there, those are the books that I really love to collect. And now, to end off the day, GameCube, another console which I've really been focusing on collecting lately, and a game which I have wanted for quite a while, Star Fox Assault, and everything is in there, and it is super nice. Next up, we have Road Trip, the arcade edition. I have no idea what kind of game it is. It looks like racing, although it almost looks like a party game. I'm not entirely sure. Actually, it looks like a racing game. I'll have to give it a shot. We have Battalion Wars, Tai 2, and to finish it all off, the two greatest games I'm going to be adding to my collection, Legends of Wrestling 1 and Legends of Wrestling 2. They were both in like, I think it was like a buy one get one free bin, and the games were already like $2 or something like that. So anyway, I grabbed those just because I didn't have them. And I believe that is everything that I picked up at the swap meet. So I mean, I just go to these things, and like I said, I do trades. I sell off a few things that I have doubles of because, of course, people there's going to be a whole bunch of people looking for different things. So I make a little bit of money there, and then that just goes right back into buying things for my collection. And yeah, I found so many cool things like the books, and I went crazy with import stuff this time. And I cannot wait to play all 5 versions of Go. And I'll be writing up a detailed review on which one is the best and why. No, I'm definitely looking forward to a Hikaru no Go the most, although I'm sure they'll all be interesting, and especially, even though, of course, the PlayStation ones are better. I bet 8-bit Go will be just as fun as Go, because, I mean, Go is kind of like a sports game. I mean, no matter how many versions of it there are, it's always going to be the exact same board game, so, anyway. I believe that is all that I have to show for today. And as usual, I'm sure as soon as I turn off the video, there will be something that I forgot to show, but in hopes that I have remembered everything this time. Thank you very much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed, and I hope to see you next time for something different. So thanks, and see you later.